This video is a tutorial for complete beginners on getting started with Power Automate Cloud Flows. This is the tool that you can use to automate your workflows, all those repetitive processes. We're going to be looking at that trigger and action type automation and workflow. You're going to find out how you can get started with a super easy template, as well as how you can work from blank to create the 3 different types of cloud flows. We're going to be looking at how you can create flows from automated events that happen, from pressing buttons, instant flows, and also how you can schedule flows to run on a regular basis. To get started with Power Automate, grab your browser, navigate to flow.microsoft.com, and you'll get this homepage. Let me just take you around, orienting you around the screen, as well as explaining some of the core concepts that you're going to need to work with cloud flows. So what we've got here is our home screen, which we can always get back to at the top here with this little home button. We have My Flows, which is going to be a list of all of the flows that you create. So if you're looking for something that you've made in the past, you'll find it there. The Create button, we're going to come back to that one a little bit later when we create a flow from blank. Templates, which is what I'm about to show you. We've got some templates here on the home screen, which are the most popular ones, but this will help you explore even more of that template goodness if you'd like to go there, and you really should. Connectors are a core concept here. So we are actually, when we're building cloud flows, working with connectors to different systems, and you can work with multiple connectors and work across different systems. There are, at the time of recording, about 500 of these connectors in the platform. You can also build custom connectors. That's totally not a beginner tutorial concept though, so I'm not going to go into any detail on that just here. And this is all of the Microsoft productivity tools. So we've got, Excel, SharePoint, OneNote, OneDrive, Teams, Outlook, all of those things in there, but so much more than that, because obviously 500. So we've got all social media platforms in there. We've got a range of different business systems from, small to enterprise size. So you can automate across all of these systems. This is not just about Microsoft stuff. It's really going much more broadly than that. So what we're going to do here is start with a template, because I'm a big fan of using templates, especially if you're a complete beginner. If you start with something on the screen, it's so much easier than starting with a completely blank slate. I also recommend, even once you get past complete beginner stage, don't write off the templates, because I find each time I work with a new connector, there are new things I need to understand about that connector. And so coming in and working with a template can really give you a good starting point for learning when you see how it's being used in action. You'll find the templates here are arranged by giving you the most popular ones and then some common scenarios that people work with. I tend to find that notifications and approvals are really common use cases for cloud flows that people want to get started with. Send me an email when a new account is created in my CRM system, or automate my approval process. And Power Automate Cloud Flows are very, very good for that kind of thing. I'm going to go back in here into the top picks and have a little bit of a browse around, and let's do Get the Weather Forecast. This is also quite a fun one to work with because it works across an external system. So once I choose my template, the first thing that's going to happen here is it's going to ask me to authenticate or create connections, because that's the concept here. All of the security modeling that goes on in the platform, me as the logged in user, I'm going to have to be authenticated into those systems so that it's giving me the appropriate security and permissions to work with them. So far I haven't worked with the built-in MSN weather or notifications. So I'm going to create those connections. We'll just do that. And you'll see once they're connected that those green ticks come up. And if I use these ones again logged in as me, I'm not going to have to recreate those every time. So now we land on a flow which has been completely created. We can't see it yet, but let me give you the concept of what's happening on this flow home screen, because you'll get one of these for every flow that you work with. So we start with the name of the flow, which it's given me from the template, the details about what it does, when it was created, and whether it's switched on or off, because you can actually turn off flows. We've got the run history. So this is where you'll see what happens with your flow and a good place for coming into troubleshooting. Obviously this hasn't been run yet. We've got information about the connections that this flow is using, those 2 that we just signed in for, and the owner, which in this case is just me, but you can have multiple owners so that you can have more than one person in your organization as the owner of a flow. All right, let's have a look at what this actually is. So if I go into this edit button in the top left here, this is actually going to show me the detail of my flow. And this is a nice simple one. We have a trigger to start with, and this is actually called an instant flow. This is a manual trigger, which would just be a button of some kind. And then we have our action, and our action in this point is a conditional branch and then two different things going on under it. We've got get the forecast for today and send out a notification, and here's another one. Now what's going on here, we've got one in metric and one in US. Let's expand this condition. So we're seeing, is the country equal to the United States? Now you probably pick from my accent, my country is not going to be equal to United States, so mine should be going down the metric path, which will make me happy. All right, so this is done, trigger action. Once we've got the flow built, and I will show you how to build one of these from blank, but conceptually it's always this same thing. It's always a trigger, and then your action can just be one block, or it can go on and on and on with branching conditions and different things in there. This is at the relatively simple end of things. I can test it. So let's give this a go. I'm going to manually test it. And I'm also going to continue just to sign in. So again, that first time that you use a flow, you need to sign in to authenticate those things. All right, now we're good to go. We're going to run the flow. My flow has run successfully and we're done. Let's see how good it is at picking up my location. So once we've done the running of that flow, you can see we've got green ticks here. This is this particular instance of the flow, and we can see what's going on inside it. So it's manually triggered the flow, and it's picked up my country or region is Australia, my latitude and longitude there, and the condition has come through false. Correct, I'm not in the United States, so we're going to get the forecast for today. So you can see that what we've got here all the way through are these green ticks that allow us to see what's going on and to get the details of what's going on. And it has actually sent me a push notification there. So let me switch across to my mobile flow app and show you what that push notification looks like. So here's my phone. There's my notification in there. The notifications piece that we're looking at when we use Power Automate actually uses the Power Automate mobile app. You can actually create flows from here. You'll see we've got templates and things in here, and we can have buttons in here to trigger those manual flows as well. So there we go. There's the one that I just created. Get today's weather forecast for my location. We can see the activity, and this is also where those notifications are coming through. So you can actually have notifications coming through on your mobile as push notifications without even needing to hook up an SMS provider. So back to our flow home screen. You've created a flow from a template. You've got the core concepts under your belt. So far, so good. I'm going to show you the other ways that you can create a flow. One of them is using a connector. So if we go here and click connectors, this will actually give you a list of all of the different connectors you can work with and allow you to create a flow from one of them. So let's say I'm working with SharePoint, which is a really common thing that people will automate from. I can click on that and see what's available for me. So we've got information about the connector, as well as some triggers and actions and suggested templates and things. And there are quite a lot of them here to get you started with using SharePoint. This is essentially the same kind of starting point as a template. Highly recommend this if you're starting with a particular system in mind. I've got a SharePoint list. I want to be able to do some automation against things like what happens when a file is created or an item is created, and that will get you going. And the third way, and honestly the most common way once you are familiar with this, is to go in here and just create from blank. Now we have got 1, 2, 3 different types of cloud flows that we're working with. I'm going to come back to these other ones at the end. So we have an automated cloud flow, which is about something happens in a system somewhere, a record is added, a file is uploaded, a form is submitted, that kind of thing. An instant cloud flow, which is a press of a button or a manual trigger of some kind. That can include a button in a Power App. It can include something coming from a chatbot in Power Virtual Agents, or a scheduled cloud flow. Every Monday morning at 9 a.m, send this reminder. Every hour, check this, do that, that kind of thing. So that's basically on a timer. So let me take you through some examples of those things, so you can see how we would use them. So let's start with the automated Cloudflow here. The first thing it asks is, what system are you going to trigger from? And I'm going to choose Dataverse here, which is the system that sits underneath Model-Driven Power Apps and Dynamics 365 if you're using that as your CRM system. You can use SharePoint, you can use whatever you like. I'll show you a range of examples as we go through. So I'm going to say when a row is added into my database. So this is a good use case for when a new account is created in my CRM system, please send me a notification in Teams, something like that. So as I said, notifications quite a good use case to start with. So the trigger has some options in it, and you'll see each trigger, depending on the system you're using, is going to be slightly different. So part of the learning curve, a big part of the learning curve with Power Automate, is understanding the specific parameters and the specific things that each particular connector, trigger, and action can do. And when you're working with the same ones over and over again, you do get familiar with those particular ones. So what I'm going to do here is say that this one is when a row is added, and I'm going to be working with the accounts table. So when a new account is added into my system anywhere in the organization, then what I want to do is send a notification. So I've finished with my trigger. I click on that new step to bring in my action. Now I'm going to keep it nice and simple here and just say that I want some kind of Teams notification, so I can go in here and choose Teams, and then I've got all of the different things I can do in here. So I can say that I want to, let's click on that and get a full list of all of them. So we've got all of these different options in here. Once you know the name of the action, you can actually start to type in the name of the action, which can be a little bit easier as well. So I'm going to post a Flowbot, and I'm actually going to post it as a chat. Just make it nice and easy. I want it to come to me as a chat notification. Now, the other core concept that we have in Power Automate is this idea of dynamic content. Things that happened in the step before become available to the subsequent steps. So what I've done here is I've pulled from Dataverse, from that database, my account, and then I can use the detail of that in my message here. So as I click on that, you'll see I get dynamic content. Now, really important thing to understand, this piece in gray here, this when a row is added, modified, or deleted, is referring to this step here. Good practice, actually rename these steps so that you know what's going on. As your flow becomes more complicated, you will thank yourself for doing that. So we've got a name of the step, post a message in Teams. If I come back in here again now, you'll see it's picked up that name. If you have lots of different steps and triggers and things, this dynamic content will get bigger and bigger, and you can scroll down and see different things in there. So it's well worth having those things, and also to notice that bit in gray as to see where you're up to. So what I want to do here is add myself a message that says a new account has been created, but I want to grab the account name. So I can search for the dynamic content. I can see it there, but just to show you the concept of searching, I can actually start typing and find account name. There we go, grab that. And that's grabbing that piece of dynamic content from that previous step. I have to put an email in here again. I could be using dynamic content to find a user, find the owner. I won't make it that complicated at this point. I'm actually just going to put in my email address because I'm creating this one, say, as a personal productivity flow that I just want that to come to me every time. And we're good. Now, I didn't give it a name when I created it before, so it's just called Untitled. If I save it at this point, it will come up with a sort of generic name for me, so you can see it's picked it up from there. But if you want to give it a name yourself, which usually you would, you can come in here and just edit that and give it a name that makes sense to you. All right, good to go. I can test my flow, all of those same things that we did before, and that would work. So the next way to create a flow, if we go back to our create screen, is to have a look at an instant cloud flow. And this is where we can create something based on a button or a manual trigger of some point. So we've got the idea here of manually triggering. So a manual flow, like we had in the mobile app before when we saw the button, a button in a Power App, Power Virtual Agents. There's actually quite a lot of ways to manually trigger flows these days, which could be a whole other thing. So let's start with this manual button nice easy one. Again, I could put the name in there, but I'm going to be a little bit lazy with this. When we have a manual trigger, you can actually ask it for inputs. So let's say I'm going to do something here, like I can manually trigger a flow. It's going to ask me for some inputs, and it's going to create a task for me in Microsoft To Do. You could use Planner or whatever you want to do. So I can say, when that button pops up, I need to actually enter something. So it's not just a single button click. So I'm going to put in first the type of user input. First is a text input. So we're going to call this the task. So we'll say this is the task subject or something like that. And then I'm going to add another input here, and I want this one to be a date. So we could call this one the due date. Now, new step. We've done our trigger. What's our action? I'm going to work with To Do here, because it's a nice easy example to show you. So we'll click on Microsoft To Do, and I'm going to add a task to my To Do. So it's going to create that connection, authenticate me against that. It's going to ask which to-do list in case I've got more than one of them here. So I've just got the default task lists in there. The title, now I want to bring what I typed in that particular step. So I put in something there that was going to be called the task. So I'm going to use that and bring that dynamic content in there. My due date is going to be, again, dynamic content from here. And I called that one due date. Now, I can't see it there. Here's another trick for beginners. This is not showing you all of them, right? So you actually need to use this search. If I actually start typing due date, there it is. So don't think it's gone if you can't see it. I'm not going to do anything else here. I'm going to set it as a like a normal priority, and that'll do. For the purposes of example here, I'm going to save that. And now I can manually trigger that flow. Let me bring up my Power Automate mobile app and show you this one in action, as well as my Microsoft To Do. All right, here's my mobile on the screen. I'm just going to click on that button that's appeared because I created that flow, and presto, it's in the mobile app. So I can click on that, and it's going to ask for those inputs that I just had. So let's say my input is going to be, the task I need to create is submit a proposal. And I'm going to enter my due date in here, the 15th. All right, and we click done. Oh, look at that. It's come. I shouldn't sound surprised, should I? Let's take the mobile out of it. So that's actually just come up straight away. My flow has run successfully in the background. Yay. All right, now, if I go back into my flow, and let's go back into here, we can actually see the flow run. So there it is there. My flow is ready to go. In fact, it has run. It ran 14 seconds ago, and it was a success. If you have any problems, if things don't work, you'll get a message here that said failed, and that's where you can go in and have a look at the details of what might have gone wrong in there. Now, honestly, if you're going to just create a to-do task, you'd probably just use the To-Do app. Fully appreciate that. But the benefit of flow here is that you can start to add more steps. So I could go in and add another step that also then perhaps sends an email to someone, or, you know, whatever else it is that you want to do. So you can have multiple levels of steps in here, and sending a task to To-Do might be one of those things that starts a chain of other things going off. All right, let's have a look at the third and final way that I want to show you how you can create a flow, which is to use a schedule. This is great if you want to be able to send out, say, a reminder once a week or once a day to yourself. Great for personal productivity things. You can also use it for reporting. You might want to send a report once a week or once a month, and it could just happen on schedule here. So we can choose when the flow starts. So I've got it, you know, just current date and time, and then I can repeat it every 1 week, for instance, and then I can choose which days it's going to run on, or I can choose to repeat it every month, or I can repeat every 3 days or whatever. So you've got quite a lot of things that you can do here. What I want to show you here is something that sort of runs on a weekly basis on a Monday. Actually, no, we want to take these other ones. So we want to run it once a week. And it's actually always going to run on a Monday. So let's get rid of all of those options and then put that there. So we've got that recurrence that happens, runs Monday every week. And there we go again with our steps. So this could be something where I want to send myself an email reminder every Monday morning to perhaps send a report to my manager or something. So email is another really common way that we can work with Power Automate. So if I have a look for Outlook and use that connector. Incidentally, Gmail is in here as well if that's your preferred way to work. So we can go and choose Office 365 Outlook, and I can send an email. Actually, just to show you that you can search for the actual action itself, I can just start typing send an email and bring that one in. authenticates my connection again, and I can go through the same process that we've done before with the dynamic content and bringing all of those things in. Now, I did mention that I had skipped over a couple of things. We won't go through and save that one. Automated cloud flows, instant cloud flows, and scheduled cloud flows are the three ways that you can create what this tutorial is about, which is a cloud flow. The things to the right of that are other awesome things that you can do with Power Automate, which is a subject of other things. So we have desktop flows, which is the concept of robotic process automation that allows you to automate across things that can't have connectors. So if you can't connect programmatically, it might be an old green screen application or a web-based application, or even if you're using Excel and you can't really connect to that, that's what you can do there. Too big to cover in this tutorial. And then business process flows, which allow you to go through the guided stages and steps of a business process flow. I've done a whole other beginner's tutorial on that, which you can check out here if you're interested. While we're at other things that can happen within Power Automate, we've also got the capability in here of something called Process Advisor, which allows you to analyze what's going on with a business process, see where the roadblocks are, see where the holdups are, and to improve the process. So that's cloud flows. We've had a look at how we can create cloud flows from blank using templates from the connectors, and how we can use the automated, instant, and scheduled options. I really hope that helps you to get started. Please go ahead and explore those templates at length. You'll go very far doing that. Thanks for watching.